Hello, my name is Montana Mendy, and I've been a software engineer at Travis for about 3 years now. This would be my second time speaking at DroidCon. Um, First time was in 2020, so it was virtual. Um, so it is a pleasure being here in person with you folks. Not sure if the guy from Uber is coming back. I think I may have scared him off. That's okay. um, to get started, what I've noticed in the CI community specifically, cloud-based ones, not so much on-prem, but running Android emulators has always kind of been difficult and complicated for users. And a lot of the times in documentation, you'll get conflicting data points, instructions. So one YAML file may not work for you, and then you try another one that's almost identical, it works, and you're like, why is that? So today I kind of want to show you the best practices on how and why that happens. So let's go to the repository that I've made for the DroidCon talk here. It's labeled DroidCon 2022 talk. So some of the stuff we're going to be using are Ubuntu Jammy, which is the Jammy Jellyfish, the newest distribution, Gradle, or obviously Oracle JDK, Bash, ARM ABI, Build Tools 2230, and a VM that is pretty heavy. So let's get to the actual YAML file. And actually, before I do that, it is worth noting that in GitHub, you can look at it through just that check mark. So you click that check mark, and you can see more of the details on the build. All right, let's get started. So I built one earlier in the day, but we're gonna restart this build. And it is obviously starting, so provisionally it's gonna be booting a Docker container, and then obviously provisionally be booting a VM. So back to the inconsistencies with all the documentation out there. A lot of developers I know rely on examples given by other developers. And that was the case really for me when running emulators on any CI/CD tool. And that's not a bad thing. I'm glad people like that are out there. I think it's a good source. But most of the stuff that you find is outdated. You get deprecated dependencies, things like that. And you can definitely break your build, so proceed with caution always. So let's go to the config and see kind of exactly what I've set up here. So we're using Android for the language, JDK, obviously Oracle. Distribution, I just am using Jammy. That is the latest one that's currently out. But you can use Trusty, Focal, Fossa, whatever one that you think you need to use. Precise, you could also use if you want to go back that far even. We're using Group Edge, so everything is basically the newest possible. And then, of course, licensing. You'll get a lot of questions in licensing, and since in CI/CD kind of log, that isn't a responsive log. You actually have to tell in your YAML file, say yes or no. So that's a little fun fact. And then you'll see on the components, we have tools, build tools, Android 30, Android 22. I've fetched some extra Google Play services. These aren't necessarily needed, but in my case, I just added them. And then, of course, the before install hook, we changed the permissions for Gradle. Obviously, if you don't do that, it's going to throw back saying, what are you doing? You can't do that. You don't have permissions. And saying yes to all the licensing. In the before script, you'll also see more kind of yes, no answers to licensing. And you'll see the emulator being started. There's going to be no audio, no window, obviously, in this case, just for this kind of cursory demo. And then there's a custom bash script, and actually at the end of the session, I will be sharing with a link. And then, of course, input, key event. And then here's the Gradle scripts, assemble, debug, connected, check. And then, of course, removing the Gradle caches kind of speeds up your build a little bit. And then, of course, the root directories for where the caches and wrappers are installed. Let's go back and see how our job is looking. So we want to make sure it is running. Yep, so build group edge, build distribution jammy, tells you what kernel version it's using. And you can actually be more verbose in some of the build system information and worker information. You just have to put, obviously, a -v flag. So, of course, it gives you information about the Docker client we're using. Basically, just really any information that you want to know. And to go to the actual build, here we go. These are some of the dependencies. Vim version, I use Vim. Okay, so now this is fetching the dependency, so some of the APIs, and these are the tools. As you know, we're using 22 and 30, if you recall. And of course, these are the extra Google packages that I wanted to grab, and again, not necessarily you have to grab. And I think some of you may know there's not currently a native way to do this. So you can use ARM ABIs, and V7A seems to work the best and is the quickest for build times. If you're worried about build time, shaves about 2 minutes, I've noticed, off your build, so definitely use that. And you'll start seeing some environment variables getting exported. And here's the stack trace here. So basically, the stack trace is just going to be saying waiting for emulator, for emulator to start, and it's going to keep doing that until the emulator actually starts. It takes a moment. And like I said, Travis CI doesn't exclusively have this problem about natively running emulators. So a lot of the CI/CD platforms out there also have the exact same problem. And as of now, it's not possible, at least with Travis CI, to run x86 Android emulators on most of our cloud-based services. Now, we do have an on-prem service as well, but that's for a different time. So here is some of the licensing that I was telling you about. So we're just going to kind of accept all of that. And right now, the sample app that I've created, you'll now see it's going to start building. It's doing that now. And you'll see that build successful, emulator's working. And it's also worth noting that sometimes, depending on how big your project is / repository, you may have to change permission or chmod various things. So one great thing about Travis is in this particular demo, I'm making it very verbose, but you don't have to have it this verbose. You can basically just say passed, and this is the reason why it passed, or if it failed, this is the reason why it failed. And actually, let me go back really quick to some of the bash scripts I was talking about that might be worth looking at. And again, I will share these with everybody after the fact. So install JDK Travis. This is a bash script that will fetch some of the latest JDK stuff. On some occasions, you might run into some issues with JDK 8. This ensures that you don't run into any issues. And as of now, Windows is unable to clean child processes. So no Gradle daemons allowed for Windows builds right now. So Linux, Mac OS, perfectly fine. Go back to the root repository. And then Android, wait for emulator. So this is kind of where I've made it, really verbose, and meaning that stack trace was ran, and that's why I keep saying waiting for emulator to build. You don't really have to use this. This is more of a tool for if something goes wrong, specifically in build time. So it looks like we have a successful build. So we now know that emulator is working, app is working, and just really quickly here, it's worth noting that you can go to build history, and so you'll see sometimes it doesn't always go according to plan. I was adding KVM last night, wasn't going according to plan, but on some occasions it did. So it really is, you know, up to you as to your strategy on how to increase build time. And this repository is a really great way to do that, just on a cursory level. So I think that's really about it for the talk here. Just some of the slides here, just quickly, that we kind of already went over, and kind of a refresher. So we selected our language as Android, got our JDKs. We look at the YAML file. Components that we use in this build were build tools, extra Google Play services, ARM, AB, IV7, Gradle. We looked at the bash files. We've made them executable using chmod, changing permission. Add a value, tell Gradle where to point out to find the root project. That's obviously important. And yeah, thank you. This has been my second time speaking at DroidCon, and I hope to be here next year. Any questions?